My name is Jim Arnold. I have been with IBEC for 18 years now. And also, I'm a former professor at a graduate school here in Minneapolis. And way back when, I actually brought teams over a number of years to IBEC. So I know exactly what it is you have gone through in order to be here and all the work that you have put in. And we certainly appreciate all that you are bringing to IBEC this year. We have a lot of great teams. The judging is proving to be very difficult because a lot of really smart talent, and we just really appreciate all the people that come to IBEC different successive years and become part of our organization. And we really appreciate that. I am joined today by two very experienced advisory judges to me, and let's introduce them now. Mike, would you start?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jim. So my name is Mike Somas. I'm a CPA and I own an accounting firm in San Diego. And I've been judging these IBEC competitions for about 15 years on and off. And I just enjoy it greatly. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the presentation. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks. Allison?
I'm Alison Taunton-Rigby, and I'm a former biotech company, public company CEO. So I'm a scientist originally, but ended up in the CEO position. And I've been doing IBEC judging for, I don't know how long. I just enjoy it.
Yes, well, that's good. And thank you so much. We sure appreciate all your help. Students, how about you introduce yourselves and tell us about you? We'd definitely like to hear what your focus is of your studies as well. Maxwell, can you start out?
Yeah, I'm Max Vogel. I go to College of the Holy Cross, and I'm a freshman economics major.
Okay, thank you. Anthony?
I am Anthony. I am a sophomore at St. Anselm College, and I'm a political science criminal justice double major.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Andrew?
I am Andrew Pedonastro, a freshman at Fordham University in the Gabelli School of Business, studying finance.
Excellent, great. And finally, Bianca?
Hi, I'm Bianca. I'm a third year at the University of Georgia studying political science and philosophy.
Okay, great, thanks. Well, it's nice to hear we have some people here that are not graduating this year, so we can look forward to seeing you next year and in the future. Wonderful. Well, and then we have a person here that I personally think is the most important person in the room because he makes my life so much easier and so much less stressful by running the technology and doing it so well, and he has done it for a number of years. Robbie, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Ravi Rajan. I live in Santa Barbara, California. I work at Raytheon Technologies, and I've known Tom White since the beginning of this whole, the beginning of IBEC, so 1996, I think it was. A long time, yeah. So if you guys have any problems, just feel free to reach out to me in the chat, and I will also put my cell number in there in case, so you guys have it. Okay, thanks.
Great, great. Well, you must have been about 2 years old when you came to IBEC then, if you've been with us if you've known Tom for that long.
Thank you. Jim, I'm gonna mute myself and turn my camera off so there's less people.
Fine. Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you. As we've done in the past, I will read you a statement that everybody gets read to at the beginning. You've seen this before. There's nothing new here. We just like to make sure everybody starts on a level playing field. 90-second presentation. Imagine that you are an employee of the company whose case you've been studying. You're in a meeting at which people are discussing the issue. However, nobody has brought up ethics yet. There is a pause in the conversation. You have 90 seconds in which to convince the other people at the meeting that there are ethical issues that need to be addressed. You don't have to argue for a solution. You just need to see that there are serious ethical issues here that need to be looked at. Also, it's very important to us that you're not reading from notes or a script. And also we want you to make sure to be looking into your camera as you speak so you can make eye contact with us. Some people find that difficult because in all of our Zoom experience that we all have, We think maybe that when we're looking at somebody's box on the screen, that we're actually looking at them, but we're not. So remember to keep looking into your camera so that we can make eye contact with you and form that communication bond. The order that we're going to go in today, we're going to start with Fordham, and then St. Anselm, and then Holy Cross, and then Georgia. What we're then going to do is we're going to go through each one by one right after another. We'll take a minute in between each one for your judges to maybe jot down a couple of notes. And then at the very end, after everyone is gone, I will ask both of the advisory judges to give each team feedback on the presentation. And then I will offer some feedback as well. Do we have any questions at all before we begin? Okay, from Andrew from Fordham, you are our first up today. So welcome to your last presentation at IBAC, and when you are ready, you can begin.
I just have a quick question. In previous ones, you had the establish the context, just like for our presentation. Would you like me to establish, what the idea is, or just get into my 90-second pitch?
Why don't you? The idea being that you are in the elevator or in a meeting at your company, and you're piping up and you're stimulating some interest. So we'll have you not start anything except your presentation.
Cool.
Anytime you're ready, Andrew.
Okay. Excuse me. I would think everyone here is not considering the ethical lens of this decision. I understand that when you're dealing with a business, your objective is to increase your income statement, to generate the most revenue. However, there's an ethicality involved in this decision. Are you aware of the severity that sugar has a contribution to obesity? The Johns Hopkins study created the idea that from 1962 to 2010, there was a 46 to 75% increase in obesity in the United States. And that is a main cause of that is the increase in sugar. Gen Z, the main consumer in the food market industry, has an increase in consciousness of health and food products, and it's important to them that they understand what they're putting in their body. A majority of food companies have been using deceptive marketing practices to mislead consumers into believing they're eating healthy foods when in fact they are not. This all occurs all while a majority of these food companies have a code of ethics that they claim to maintain. Let's take Nutella, for example. Nutella claims to abide by the principles of responsibility, trust, and integrity. However, their release of their hazelnut spread has claims to be a part of a balanced breakfast. With that, their balanced breakfast contains more sugar on average than a Hershey's chocolate bar. Advertising a healthy food that contains more sugar on average than a candy is not transparent in nature. This leads to the overconsumption of food and misrepresentation in the food industry. As demonstrated, brands like Nutella's make customers believe they're consuming healthy foods when in fact they're not, which goes against the code of ethics of trust, responsibility, and integrity. In the long run, this can not only have negative health effects on the general consumers, but impacts the bottom line of companies. Once consumers recognize that their unhealthy eating habits are due to misguided information, the brand reputation of these companies will fail, resulting in a lower profitability.
Okay. Thank you. We'll take just a minute here. Anthony, St. Anselm, you are up. Anytime you're ready to begin.
Thank you. I know everybody here at OpenAI is concerned with the possible legal issues concerning our generative AI, but I don't believe people are taking into effect that these legal codes have ethical problems behind them. Our mission statement here at OpenAI is to expand generative AI to benefit all of humanity. And if our AI even has the chance of hurting humans or their property, we should take a step back for a second and pause release of any new models. I heard today that the board was considering an oversight committee by the government to stop any future production of our newer models of DALL-E and ChatGPT. And I honestly think that that is a good idea, because another tech giant like Facebook has done the exact same thing to make sure that they aren't intruding on people's privacies. But we have to make sure that we're not just focusing on the court of law here, but the court of public opinion. It is the people that are really scared of our generative AI. Right now, when people hear about OpenAI, they think about this monster that is going to steal all of their jobs. And that's not what we're about here. If people are scared of what our technology is doing to students in schools, doing to artists, doing to authors, why should they ever trust us to use that AI in their daily lives? Honestly, I wouldn't either. We want the public to access our AI, but right now we are testing this AI on them. We should test this in-house before we let it get out to the public, so we can control the content that we make. Our biggest business partner, Microsoft, just fired their ethics team. We have a chance to make this right. We want the people to care about generative AI and what it can do to benefit all of them. But we need to get back to our mission statement, the reason that all of us signed up to work here at OpenAI. We want to benefit all of humanity. And with a federal oversight committee, they can help us do exactly that. They can help us follow the legal codes, the ethical problems behind them, and help us benefit everyone in the United States so that our generative AI doesn't get banned like it did in Italy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. Hang on just a minute. Max from Holy Cross, you are our next 90-second speaker. Welcome to your last appearance at IBEC, and you can start whenever you like.
Regarding Flip's current state of operations, there are several ethical issues which must be brought to light. Firstly, Flip's circumventions of legal restrictions associated with the traditional sportsbook enables Flip to reach an underage audience that would otherwise be unable to participate in sports betting. Flip's bright, vibrant, and easy-to-use interface is designed for young users. Moreover, Flip's social features bear strong resemblance to those of other platforms that are familiar to underage users, thus alluring them towards Flip. This, along with other aspects of Flip, such as a fixed interval reward system and a minimum withdrawal of Flip cash, perpetuates sports gambling in these younger users who are more susceptible to addiction, according to numerous statistics from well-accredited sources, such as the Wall Street Journal. Users of this demographic are likely to develop harmful gambling habits with little risk tolerance, which could prove to be highly detrimental in their futures. Youth gambling is associated with higher drug use and is linked to the highest rate of suicide among all addictions. Flip has a responsibility to protect these younger users, which it can achieve by improving identification security through a self-certified identification system, providing gambling education on their website and platform, and finally implementing betting limits. Thank you.
Thank you. Hang on a second. Thank you, and then our final speaker today is Bianca, and from Georgia. And Bianca, welcome, and you can start whenever you're ready.
Listen, I think that we're really failing to see the ethical implications here of our issue. Our company has a moral obligation to the environment due to our reliance on natural resources. our impact on the environment through our operations in our supply chain, as well as our role in addressing the climate issue. By prioritizing sustainability, we can really take a step forward in the right direction in promoting a more healthy and sustainable future. Additionally, we have a moral obligation to fulfill our promises to our stakeholders. We promised that we would decrease carbon emissions by 50% by the year of 2030, but instead, since 2021, these carbon emissions have been increasing, with the cups that we use, making up a large portion of this increase. These cups pose a serious concern for the environment. They are non-recyclable and non-biodegradable, which means that they end up in our landfills for a very long time. Starbucks cups take 20 years to decompose and break down, leaving them to pollute our oceans, landfills, and ecosystem, with the polyethylene plastic lining the cups only being recyclable in 4 cities around the United States. By continuing to use these unsustainable cups, we are falling short of our ethical obligation to the environment to promote a healthier future, as well as failing to meet our promises to our stakeholders. As a young person working for this company, I know I speak not only for myself when I voice serious concerns for the direction that we are headed. And I know that we can take a step in the better direction to do the right thing and fulfill our promises. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Minute here. Let's go back to the beginning and we'll have both of the advisory judges give you some feedback team by team. Mike, are you ready to lead off? You're muted.
Yeah, would you prefer to do all 4 or one by one?
Wow, one by one for
One by one. Very good. Okay. For Andrew at Fordham, I think the Nutella probably should have been up front to really focus on the tangible element of what the point was, by starting with kind of broad analyses and broad statistics. It left one kind of floating for a bit until you focus down on Nutella and specifically the labeling on the Nutella. So that was the comment that I had written down for you. Good presentation, though. Thank you.
Okay. Allison, what?
So first, I'd like to congratulate all of you on great presentations, because I bought the Kool-Aid on every single one of them. You convinced me, every one of you. So, and that's one of the major points of having a good argument about something like this. Andrew, a little bit more. I'd actually sort of reverse and sort of state up front, our marketing's deceptive, because it took me a while to sort of pick up that that's really what it was about. You talked about sugar and obesity. But if you say the principal issue is our marketing is deceptive, we're claiming it's healthy and it's not. And then you can sort of explain why. It's sugar, it's carbohydrates, and processed foods. But otherwise, I thought you did a really good job. The ending was a little abrupt. And I thought you started well saying, excuse me, that was a great introduction for sort of coming into a conversation or a discussion, but you need something like that at the end. Don't you believe me? Something like that.
Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to our next team, St. Anselm and Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, thank you. Anthony, I thought it was a great presentation. You had me all the way until the end, and then you made a comment that seemed to contradict what you were saying earlier on. So earlier on, you were saying that that we need to get out ahead of the regulation. We have an obligation to have our product tested internally before using it on the public and so on. And you had me. I thought, whoa, that's good. I'm with you. And then at the end, you made a comment, and maybe I misunderstood it, but I thought you said that a federal oversight committee can help. And to me, that contradicted what what the point was that we're going to do something, and then all of a sudden the Federal Oversight Committee would help. So I thought it was a great presentation, but that to me was a kind of a disconnect.
Okay, thank you. Allison?
Anthony, I actually liked your presentation a lot. It would be very rare to find a company that says, there's a problem, the government's going to put in a federal oversight, because most companies will fight tooth and nail against that and say all the time, we can do it on our own, we can do it ourselves, self-regulate. And of course, that doesn't work. So I really like the fact that you came out saying, you know, public opinion is against this, we must test it in-house, and we should support a federal oversight committee. You gave me both sides of the issue. So I actually liked what you said, because it's rare to find employees will say something, but companies just don't like regulation of any kind from anybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Moving on to Holy Cross, Mike?
Yeah, Holy Cross Max, it was generally good content. I found you reading it as opposed to talking to me, which, you know, it is what it is. And I thought you had a good recommendation at the end, you know, that we should educate on the platform and have betting limits. I thought that probably could have been a little bit buttressed by perhaps saying what the effect of that might be, because it just kind of said, we should educate and we should have betting limits, which makes sense. But perhaps there could have been a little bit of a follow-up by saying education could do this and betting limits could do that. Other than that, I thought the content was great.
Excellent. Thank you, Allison.
I agree. You did make some comments about, you know, platform ID, age identification. And I know the part of the problem is that fails because you've got to put some detailed stuff in there. Sports betting is kind of scary to me. So I think I really like this as a topic. There's no question in my mind that I really think they designed to hook people in. And that's fine with an adult, but it's definitely not fine with young children. So I really like the fact that you brought this issue to the front. You missed a little on why is it that platform ID, the ID age limits are not able to be sort of verified. I know they can be done, but it's complicated. So good presentation and another really good issue to pick.
Fantastic. And then last we have Georgia and the Starbucks cups, Mike.
Yes, Bianca. So Bianca, your presentation was terrific. I felt like I was sitting there in the room with you and we were having a conversation. And so I thought that you just hit it out of the park with that, the actual presentation and the way you articulated it. And obviously you believe in this and that comes across. And it was, from that standpoint, I thought it was really a terrific presentation. The only comment I would have is that it was a somewhat broad problem, that cups and climate change and this and I think you would have taken it to the next level by bringing it a little more focused as to who is actually being hurt by this. I didn't get any examples of that. You expressed the problem, which I think we all have heard that and we all understand it. But I thought perhaps if there was a specific example or target or something to bring it home a little bit more, that might have been something to add to it. Aside from that, I thought it was a really great presentation.
Excellent. Thanks, Mike. Allison?
I agree. Nice. I enjoyed it. And by the way, there's a good article in the Washington Post on this whole issue with a little quiz you can go through. And I hadn't appreciated the cups can't be recycled and people just throw them in all the time. So I think you picked up on an issue that is very important. You didn't give any answers to how it would be so easy for Starbucks to have, paperish cups or something different, a different material that was recyclable. At least I think that. I've no idea actually whether that's true, but so I liked it because it's a real issue, but I'm not sure you quite said, why can't you recycle cups? Because to me, these styrofoam cups, you can just throw them in the recycling, and that's what people do. So good presentation. Again, a really good topic to have us think about.
Yes, great. Thank you. And I will finish up this part. We'll go back to Fordham and Andrew. I thought that you spoke very forcefully. I really liked that. I really like that you brought in the John Hopkins piece and gave us just a little bit of data. Not too much data necessary in a 90-second presentation, but just a little bit here is good, because business people will perk up their ears when there's some numbers there, because of the general numbers orientation. But I like the fact that you did that, and so you had yeah, and you brought some good energy to it and some decent eye contact. I like that you tied things to the 3 pieces of trust, responsibility, and integrity. Breaking it into chunks like that, I thought was very effective. And then talking about the profitability piece was good. I also like that you that this is what the others told you. Starting out with "excuse me" and just, you know, putting your hand right in there and getting rid of it, I think is a great idea. Part of the idea of this exercise, and actually about business ethics in general, it's about getting in there and interrupting the conversations and saying, hey, and we looked at the ethical piece, because it's just not that common for the ethical piece to show up on its own. And I think it's important and incumbent upon all of us to be the ones that insert ourselves and say, hey, wait a minute. And so by saying "excuse me" to start with, Andrew, that was very effective. I do agree that, yeah, starting out really strong with a shocking sort of statement such as "our marketing is deceptive." Wow, that would have also been a good way to start as well. And I do think that the Nutella piece was a good example. I think Nutella, I've read this before in other places, that Nutella is one of the worst of all in terms of deceptive marketing. And so I think that using that one was a good example. Very nice. And Anthony from St. Anselm, I think that I liked your presentation, and I like the fact that you talked about public opinion going against us, and getting ahead of the regulation, I think is an important piece, as both of our judges talked about. And anytime you say regulation, well, you'll have business people's attention. Maybe not exactly the way you might like it, but that word regulation will perk up a lot of ears. And so I think it's really smart that you focused on that as well. I would say, Andrew, that your eye contact was not great, and that made you look a little bit less confident when you spoke, and it made you look just a little bit more nervous. And I like the line when you said, well, I wouldn't either. Now you're personalizing it. Now you're making it a more personal statement rather than just throwing out a bunch of data. Why not say something like that? I wouldn't either. So you're owning what you're saying, which is always a good idea. The return to the whole mission statement idea is strong. There was a little bit of positive energy showed there, maybe a little smiling here and there. I would encourage you going forward in future presentations to work on that even more. Show some more enthusiasm. All the research is pointing to the idea that nobody's going to be more interested in your topic than you appear to be. And how do you get that across? By being yourself, by bringing in some of your own positive energy to the story. That has a great big effect. Very nice. Max, Holy Cross. There was a little bit of reading there. Your eye contact could have been a bit better. One of the things that I think is so compelling in your argument is the idea of suicide and the number of suicides that are afflicting teens right now is a huge issue. So I might have led with that in order to get the attention of the people, because when you've got a really hot topic, using that as your intro in a presentation tends to work really well. And if these people you're talking to all of a sudden realize, oh my God, we're suicide, our company, oh my God, yes. So bringing that out would have been a good way to do that as well. And the whole age ID thing, yeah, I mean it's very, very flawed, but what is it that we have? We have to do something. And so I think that was good to bring up. And see, I liked your recommendation as well, and I agree with Mike that maybe it could have been buttressed just a little well, talking about the effect on that. But general, lots of really good information. Bianca, I really like the way you got things started out. You really wanted to attract some attention. You had very nice eye contact, which we really appreciated. And I would add, same as I've said earlier, that if you could bring just a little bit more of your naturally great personality into it, and so people can see that they're having a conversation with you, the human, not just a person who is giving out information. So, and the more you can bring yourself into a presentation as a human and communicate with other humans, the better off that works. And so you want to create an imaginary dialogue with your audience and bring that through. And your voice was just a little bit monotone. And I would look into that. I oftentimes quote to my students that there was a meta study done a few years ago, and a meta study meaning a study of a bunch of other studies. And so a lot of times your reliability and validity can be higher with meta studies. What they found, this is very, very important, because I have seen this same thing in other studies too. And this study confirmed the number one thing that's a turnoff to audiences is a monotone voice. That is it. That is number one, and very much number one. So just as you do in regular conversation, you want to try and very, very different pieces of your talk. You can vary your volume, you can vary your pitch, things like that. So you do want to stay away from a monotone voice. But your information was excellent, and I think the issue you chose was really good. Certainly something that I didn't realize. So you taught some stuff to me that Starbucks is claiming some things that just plain aren't true. And yeah, so maybe focus in a little bit more on who is it that is being hurt by this, because it isn't always obvious to people that when you stop by and pick up a cup of coffee and throw it in the garbage that you've caused some harm. And so maybe just a little bit more about what is that harm? What is the harm of having these chemicals enter in? Because I think that provides a dramatic argument. But lots of good stuff there. Do any of you have any questions at all on the feedback from your judges?
I just like one question. So for example, for our general 25-minute, it was very I would say it's a large topic on deceptive promotional techniques in the food industry as a whole. And we thought it would fit to just zone in on one for our 90 seconds to try to get a general thesis on Dress Nutella, or in the scenario, pretend we're at like Nutella as a company. And I'm just curious of pretty much everyone's opinion on whether you think that would have been a good strategy, or that was a good strategy comparatively to addressing the techniques as a whole, because we could have perhaps gotten into a little bit more, but then we would have a little less to talk about Nutella. Whereas if we just focus on Nutella, like what we did, we would have that sort of decentralization and that one topic talked about. So I'm just curious to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, I will ask my colleagues here in a second, but given the goal of this presentation was to get your foot in the door, so to speak, that that is your main goal, is to just get people to look at you and say, oh, okay, he's saying something, we better listen to this because it sounds important. And so given the very short amount of time that you had, I think that you did a good job in talking about a product that everyone knows, which is Nutella. So no, I think that the choice you made was a good one. Mike or Allison, do you want to add anything to that?
I can add a general comment. I think that all of you could benefit a little bit from a strong opening sort of statement. Like you said, excuse me, but our advertising is deceptive. I mean, get someone's attention, then they listen. Whereas if you start to say, you know, the food industry is not known for its, you know, advertising practices, they're deceptive. You want to say ours is, because that will stop other people to say, what, you know, tell me, and then it'll be, tell me more about it. So a strong opening statement would be really good. And I'm just curious, I kind of thought some of you might be reading. Were any of you reading? I mean, be honest, because it helps you if you can get to speak freely and sort of easily and openly. And I know that all of us, the three judges, we spend our lives speaking publicly. So it's very easy for us, and I know hard for you, but that's a skill to learn. So really think about that. And I will tell you also that I much prefer, every time I give a public presentation, I like having slides, because to me, they're just the prompts. You never read it, but you can just go onto the point, but you want to be able to talk fluently about each point. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we ask you to not be reading this, is to try and be principles of, you know, what's the problem or the challenge? Why is it bad? What can we do about it? And why aren't we doing something about it? You know, that's the sort of gist of what you want to get their attention. And then the question, why aren't we doing something about this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Going in with guns a-blazing, as they sometimes say, is to really grab that attention. Mike, did you want to add anything overall?
I think generally, I entirely agree with what Allison just said. And you said, Jim, about you got to grab them right up front. I mean, if your first line was Nutella's lying, Nutella is lying. They're saying this is a healthy food and it's not a healthy food. They're saying there's no sugar. It's filled with sugar. There's more sugar in a Nutella bar than there is in a chocolate bar. If you, with that kind of an argumentative, and this is the case, and we have to do something about it, and it's a call to action, and then you can pepper it with, you know, the obesity is this, and that, and this is the reason we need to do this. That's the kind of thing where you really grab them, and then you really have their attention, and then you can kind of, you know, buttress it and give more color to it, and then have the recommendation at the end. But I think in all of these cases, the information was great. Mm-hmm. You know, it's about presentation, and you know, we're given the great benefit of being able to just listen, not having to prepare them. You know, so when you actually have to prepare them, all of a sudden it presents a bit of a problem. How do you present it? And I found the information to be compelling. All the information was compelling in all the presentations. But to this specific point, if you reach out and grab them, then you've got their attention, and then you can layer in the backup information.
Excellent.
Can I just add to that? What that means is, to some extent, you're putting your opinion out there. You know, think about it. Saying, I think our marketing practices are deceptive, or Starbucks, I don't understand why we continue with these non-recyclable cups. You know, that's people think they're recyclable. The problem is they're not, but they end up, and they're very difficult to get out of the plastic waste. So it's your opinion, but put it out front, and people will then listen to you, rather than saying sort of as though it's something, somebody else, or, you know, put yourself behind it, because then you also get much more animated about it because you believe something.
Right. Sure, your belief. Yeah, the opening statement in presentations is, any kind of presentation is especially crucial. You have, according to research, you've got about 10 seconds, maybe up to 10 to 20 seconds for your audience to make the decision as to how they're going to approach your presentation, whether they want to listen to it, whether they're grabbed with your ideas. And so coming out strong is a good strategy in almost every presentation that you'll ever do. So think about your opening always when you're making presentations out in the real world, et cetera, et cetera. That's huge. Because of the way our minds work, the minds of your audiences, we make snap decisions. We shouldn't, but we do make decisions about you based on very little visual data and very little data on what you say. So keep that in mind. You are done. You are done with the hard part of IBEC. Congratulations. You have made it through all three of the presentations.